Enjoy early access to ad-free episodes each week when you subscribe to Wedding Planning Podcast Premium in Apple Podcasts. Enjoy the show. Today we're going to review some really smart tips for maximizing your time spent at a bridal show or wedding fair. That's coming up next on the Wedding Planning Podcast. Why, hello there, my friend. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me here for today's show. Today, we're going to talk through some really smart, really easy, really common sense tips for maximizing your time and minimizing your stress while attending a bridal show, a wedding fair, or a wedding expo, as they're sometimes called. Now, I'd like you to think about, would you volunteer to host a Christmas party for 40 people and then rush out to the store with absolutely no shopping list and no menu planned? No. You would sit down and make a menu, you'd look up some recipes, and then you'd make a detailed list of exactly what you need to buy, and you'd take the time to plan it all out. So given that, why on earth would we run out to a wedding fair with absolutely no plan and just see what happens? Today, we're going to take inventory and we're going to make a list of your goals and your priorities for the day so that you can maximize your time spent and minimize the overwhelm factor as you're walking through those aisles, meeting a ton of vendors, and gathering a lot of inspiration. I really can't think of a better all-in-one place to gather inspiration in person, meet potential vendors face-to-face, and have a really fun and a really productive day. I'm a huge fan of bridal shows, wedding fairs, wedding expos, whatever you want to call them. I highly recommend that you attend one in your area. And with that said, let's get into today's show. So what is so great about a wedding fair? Why should you go to one? There are a lot of reasons. I've touched on a handful of them already. I really think that in terms of your investment of time and money, which is small, we'll touch on that a little bit more in a couple minutes, but in terms of bang for your buck, both literally and time-wise, I feel like a wedding fair is really, really productive way to spend your time and to get a lot of things hammered out in a short amount of time. If you live in more of a rural or a suburban area, I would recommend going onto the good old internet and doing a search, wedding fairs in your area, bridal expos in your area, and kind of see what you come up with. If you're in a really metro area, these are super popular and you'll find, you could probably find one every month or every other month if you're in a big city center. They are very popular. If you don't find a ton of options, I will say here, I do strongly feel that it is worth your time, even if it means getting in the car and driving an hour or 2 hours to a big city center near you. I do think it's worth your time. And I think given today's tips that we're going to go over in this show, again, I think you can really capitalize on that investment and have this be a really positive opportunity, even if it involves getting in the car and driving a little bit further than you might think you want to. And next, let's touch on who should you go with? Who should you take along with you on your trip to the wedding fair? And it's a really individualized personal decision, but some ideas. You could take your wedding party, whether that's your bridesmaids or your groomsmen or a combination of both. I would personally suggest keeping this group on the smaller side. I don't think it's going to be as productive to wander through the wedding fair with 12 of your closest friends and family members as it would be if you kept that group really tight knit. Again, if you want to do more than one of these throughout your engagement, you could do one with your mom and your sister, and then you could do another one with your maid of honor, and then you could do another one with your bridal party. Again, very, very personalized way of approaching that. So whatever clicks for you or whatever feels most comfortable for you, absolutely go that route. And then, not to overlook the obvious, a lot of couples will approach this together. So going with your fiance and the two of you can be really strategic and maybe make some decisions together on the spot as you're seeing things face to face and experiencing it together. So if this is something your partner would be game for, that's a great idea too. And then last kind of logistical piece as we get started here, tickets and the price point for these things will vary a little bit. I would say you can go anywhere for as cheap as a few bucks on up to $50. It really just depends on who is coordinating it and hosting it. Again, ranging in price from $6 up to $50. I do think it's worth your time to, again, hop on the internet, see if you can do a ticket pre-sale, pre-purchase your tickets so that you have them and you're not dealing with that at the door when you get there. And then look around for Groupons or any specials. There are oftentimes promotional coupons and deals out there. So definitely worth it to take 5 to 10 minutes ahead of time and plan it out and see if you can get those tickets pre-purchased. Everyone's individual price threshold is going to be different, of course, but again, I do firmly believe that it is worth your time for an investment of a few bucks. I think you're going to find that you're happy you did it. Now, going into one of these shows without any sort of game plan whatsoever is a recipe for immediate overwhelm. These things are loud. They have dozens, if not hundreds of vendor booths. You have DJs playing loud music. You have people calling out to you from all directions. It is, all in all, it can be a very overwhelming experience. So with that said, that's why we are going to make a plan so that you can go into this day really armed with your priorities and you can follow the roadmap that you make for yourself so that you're not just pulled willy-nilly in a million different directions as soon as you step foot into the space. So the first thing I would suggest you do is very thoughtfully make a list of what you're needing or what you're wanting to research. And as you make that list, it's going to become really clear the exact steps that you want to take, the exact boxes that you want to check off. Anything you encounter throughout your time at that expo that does not fall within your list of priorities, you're going to tune it out. Put on your blinders, your figurative blinders, and just completely tune out anything that doesn't fall within your set of priorities. So to put this another way, think about what are your goals. So maybe 2 to 3 things that you want to specifically research, gather more information about. Maybe it's 2 to 3 specific vendors that you want to talk with and you want to ask a ton of questions. And we're going to get into making a really strategic list of questions in just a minute here. Maybe your goal is to walk around sipping champagne with your maid of honor and just look and just gather inspiration and collect brochures and get a bag of freebies. That's totally fine too. I don't want to make it sound like you have to have an airtight game plan in order to be productive and we're just kind of making this a robotic task list. Not at all. Sometimes I go to the mall with my best friend and we wander around aimlessly in and out of stores with no plan whatsoever. I can definitely see that happening at a bridal show. And again, if that's your priority, then that's perfectly fine. That vision is also probably going to evolve a little bit as you move through your engagement season. So at the beginning, maybe you want to just go and kind of soak it all in and get some ideas and wander around, and kind of your plan is not to have a plan. And then as you get deeper into planning and you have made a couple of decisions, it starts to become clear that, okay, A, B, C, these are exactly the next steps that we want to take. So maybe you go to another fair later on, a few months later, and you do the really strategic parts. Whatever you need to do, this is very individualized. And then to go just a little deeper into something I brushed over quickly there, what is the best timing to visit a wedding fair? So for example, if you just got engaged last month, should you wait for a few months to go? When's a good timing within your engagement season? I would personally suggest or recommend that you should probably have a budget somewhat formalized before going out and gathering ideas and inspiration. And that goes not only for wedding fairs, but for like any type of planning in general. At a bridal show, there's absolutely no point in having a bunch of conversations with vendors who are 3 times more expensive than what you're willing to invest. that's just a waste of everyone's time. So going into this experience with a generalized budget, I think is helpful. As long as you have that, I think you're game on, good to go. It doesn't need to be so dialed in that you know exactly how much your catering budget is and exactly how much your photography budget is. But you need to have some sort of generalized idea so that, again, you're not talking to a photographer whose packages start at $10,000 when your total wedding budget is $6,000. Next, really helpful to do before visiting a wedding fair is to make yourselves a dedicated wedding email address if you haven't already. So for example, if your email address is katejohnson@gmail.com, maybe you want to set aside a dedicated email inbox, johnandkatewedding@gmail.com, so that all of your wedding correspondence and marketing and promotional emails, you can give that out to all the vendors that you're going to meet at the wedding fair. Now, lots of couples, and this is really, really smart, will even go a step ahead and print out labels with their name, their email address, and their wedding date, and have a sheet of labels so that when you meet vendors at the fair and they have a sign-up sheet for more information, you can simply peel off one of your labels and stick it onto their list. This saves you the time of writing the email address and the information down 100 times throughout the day. And yes, be prepared to get about 1 million emails after visiting one of these things. In most cases, you're providing an email address when you register, and then your attendance and your ticket purchase is granting permission to be marketed to. That's in essence what these things are. So unless you want your personal inbox bombarded with hundreds of spammy wedding offers, I would really suggest making a dedicated wedding email address. And then another quick just organizational note on that point, I would take the time to unsubscribe from the stuff that you have absolutely no interest in. I guess that's just kind of a life tip in general, but it'll keep your email landscape clean and organized so that every time you go in there, you're not missing important stuff because it's buried in 50 emails from random vendors who you came across through this wedding fair. So take 3 seconds per email you see that you don't want any more information about and click unsubscribe on the bottom and then move on. And then on that note, a quick word on contests and free prizes. There will be 1 million of those, and it's meant to be fun. So by all means, enter away, but I'd keep your expectations pretty low in terms of walking away at the end of the day with a free wedding. Many prize drawings are contingent on signing up or paying for something else. So for example, a free bridal bouquet when you book a complete floral design package isn't going to do you any good if your flower budget is $200 and you planned to DIY all of your flowers. And then another quick example that comes to mind, free bridal makeup when you book 6 bridesmaids from an artist that charges $250 per person makes no sense if that's way out of budget for you and for your wedding party. So just be careful with those freebies and free giveaways and free contests. I get emails from couples all the time who quote won a free something or other, and now they're in a position where in order to redeem the free something, they have to book a larger package that's way out of their budget, and that just doesn't make sense on any level. So careful with those. Coming up after a quick break, we're going to reveal my top secrets to maximizing your opportunities to meet and book great vendors at a wedding fair. This is an incredible chance to save you a ton of time and frustration, but there is a strategy to it, and we're going to cover that in great detail in just a minute. Okay, welcome back. I hope you're getting pumped up to attend that wedding fair in your area in the coming months. We are going to shift focus the second half of today's show, and we're going to talk all about vendors. Let's review exactly how to maximize the interactions that you're going to have throughout the day. The first thing I'll say is it's always okay to just keep walking. Remember at the beginning of the show, I said go in and focus on your priorities and put your blinders on and tune everything else out. You don't have to feel rude if you simply say no thank you and continue moving. You don't need to spin every single wheel of fun. You don't need to take every handout or every freebie, and you don't need to stop and dance with every single DJ that's going to try to pull you onto his dance floor. It is fine to politely say no thank you, and honestly, you don't even need to say that. Just smile and nod and keep walking. It's beneficial to understand from the vendor point of view. These folks have invested a lot of their time and money to be present at the event and to be there meeting new clients. They are showing up on their A game and they are ready to meet, impress, and book couples like you. Many vendors come prepared with really attractive early booking deals with bonus add-ons, bonus upgrades to their packages. I don't want you to be impulsive. So it's important not to fall into the scarcity or a fear of loss and fall for those, get you quick marketing tactics. But it will also work to your advantage to show up prepared to pull the trigger if it makes sense for you. And this, my friend, goes back to exactly why we made your plan in the first place, in the first part of today's show. If booking a photographer is on your master list of priorities and you find someone you love, you totally click with them, they have your wedding date available, they have an amazing early bird package, you sneak away for a few minutes and you read 100 glowing online reviews on your phone, and you are 100% confident and ready to pull the trigger, that's awesome. I don't call that impulsive. I call that smart. Impulsive would be booking a venue sight unseen without your fiance there because the price is going up tomorrow and all the dates are going to be sold out if you wait. Do you see the difference between those two? So if you show up with your priorities dialed in and completely in line, then you're going to have a much more confident feeling and you're going to know in your gut when it makes sense to pull the trigger on a great vendor that you think is going to click with you perfectly. Meeting and talking with vendors in person in this setting is my hands down favorite way ever that exists to find your vendors. It's streamlined, it's convenient, it can save you a ton of time and frustration. If you've already started planning, you've probably done some internet research, sent some emails, left voicemails, and then you're sitting around for days waiting for people to call you back and trying to get scheduled in-person meetings around your work schedule and your fiance's work schedule and all of your social obligations. It can take weeks to literally just meet someone in person who you found online. And then there's nothing more frustrating than waiting for weeks to get a meeting set up. And then you walk into that coffee shop to meet this photographer and you just know immediately that they are not the right fit. This whole process, waiting for a vendor to get in touch with you, waiting to meet in person, it's really annoying, it's really time consuming, and it gets old really, really fast. So at these wedding fairs, when you have the opportunity to meet vendors in person, face to face, right there, you can see, touch, taste their products in person. This is all a huge bonus. And I would highly recommend that you put those vendors on the spot and ask all the questions. You can prepare them in advance, and we're going to go into that in just a second. But absolutely bring along a notepad in your bag or keep a running list on your phone and keep your questions and your notes organized however you personally prefer. If you're interested in moving forward with a vendor who you meet, then you can learn the next steps right then and there. Or like we mentioned a few minutes ago, you might even be ready to book it on the spot. Part of your research before you go is, yes, to make a list of all the questions for each vendor you want to research, and then print that list out or have it handy on your phones And as you meet people, take the time to pull out your list and read all of your questions and then take notes. Do not be afraid to ask a million different questions. Really take advantage of having this person here face to face with you and getting answers to everything that's on your mind. And along with all of your note taking as you're asking questions of all of these vendors, I'd also recommend taking lots of pictures so that you can go home and sit down and revisit the vendors and the booths that you flagged for follow-up. And you can also share those pictures with your fiance if they weren't able to be there, or with anyone who's helping you plan who might not have gone with you. The visuals can be really, really helpful in conjunction with all those notes you take. And then lastly, on that note, make sure to set aside an hour or a couple of hours after the show to sit down, review your photos, organize your notes, and definitely don't wait to reach out to any vendors who you connected with and flagged as a positive or like a great contender. Don't wait to reach out to them to get really clear on what the next steps are and how to move forward. And then my guess is that when you walked into your wedding show or your wedding fair, they handed you a huge bag full of coupons and brochures and business cards. And as you're going through your post-show recap process, I would highly recommend going through that bag, pull out anything that's helpful, and then just toss the rest. You don't need a bunch of stuff that you're not interested in cluttering up your space or cluttering up your wedding planning binder or however you're keeping organized. And with that, I am going to wrap it up for today. I hope you found today's show really, really helpful. A humongous congratulations if you're joining us for the first time or for one of the first times. And I can't wait to meet you again here next week, same time, same place.